Okay, so today, or yesterday, because you're watching this tomorrow, while I'm in fact doing it tonight, the night before, so time travel. Word broke out that Disney is in the process of acquiring, I think it's parts of 20th Century Fox. To be honest with you, I have to really get back deep into the article, but in terms of nerdisms, excuse me, the nerdosphere pretty much went, aflutter with the idea that, oh my god, there could be cross things could be happening, because Disney owns Marvel Studios. So the idea that Disney, may be going after Fox lends itself to a whole bunch of possibilities. Kevin Feige himself reports to Disney. A few years ago, he and Ike Perlmutter from Marvel got into a bit of a spat, and there were things that was going on. Ike Perlmutter it just seemed weird, and the next thing you know, there was a report come out that Kevin is actually going to be reporting to one of the heads in Disney. So he reports directly to Disney. So now that you have that acquisition or possible acquisition of Fox, it lends itself that maybe now we might be able to see more of a shared universe. And from a strictly nerd perspective, that could be cool. Taika Waititi had said that one of the things he wanted to do in Thor Ragnarok was to find a way to bring Deadpool in it. And the idea of Deadpool meeting up with Thor cracks me up. But it also lends itself to me asking the question, nerdisms aside, how feasible is this really going to be for Fox properties that are actually now finding their footing? Fox has been doing comic book films for a long time, but in terms of like X-Men and that kind of thing, fans have been mixed about it. It's only when, to be honest with you, let's say X-Men First Class and maybe Days of Future Past, but definitely when Deadpool came out, that Fox became this sort of different comic book engine for Marvel properties. So you had Marvel Studios where you would get a story that was more hero-centric, and we were all kind of like worried about the villains and that kind of thing. And then you had Fox version of Marvel that would give you things like Deadpool and Wolverine and the New Mutants. And the New Mutants is not, as a storyline, is not the happy, flowery, Jubilee Rogue people, and they weren't all happy and flowery at the same point. But it was a different kind of storyline. In fact, it is a different kind of storyline because the movie's coming out. 2 words, Demon Bear. So you have to wonder, in terms of Disney's acquisition, would it mean then that they would have some sort of anonymity? Would they be able to maintain a certain amount of independence? What's going to happen to Ryan Reynolds' executively produced Deadpool type franchise? Because remember, Deadpool is not just going to be Deadpool, right? You might have your trilogy Deadpool, but then you'll also have him setting up the X-Force, and then that opens up the door to doing any number of things within that time and universe. I think for Marvel Studios, it could be a lot easier because you can just retool certain things from their existing characters to fit that X-Men Fantastic Four universe in it. And this is just me being random here. You could say, for example, that the Maximoff twins, Wanda, for example, they really are Magneto's kids, and he gave them up for adoption when they were babies, and a Sokovian family took them over, and they had latent powers, and so it was Loki's staff, the stone in Loki's staff was able to activate the mutant X gene in them because they were already special. You could retool certain storylines in order to fit that. You can even have two Magnetos and say that the stuff that happened in Marvel could be on an alternate universe, a different timeline. And so Marvel Studios stuff happens in Earth 616, which is the main Earth in Marvel world, in Marvel Comics. So that could be cool. So for me, it's not like it would be that big of a problem for Marvel Studios. And then it also lends itself to them being able to do more things, like you can do, they had a comic book storyline a few years ago, A versus X, Avengers versus X-Men. If I'm not mistaken, the Phoenix was coming back and being weird as she usually does, and there was a battle between the Avengers and the X-Men, and Wolverine was in the middle of it. Now that this news has broken out, you start to play around with some things that were said a few months back. Like Hugh Jackman had once said, the only way he would don the suit again is, well, the mantle again is, if he was inside the Marvel Studios universe. And we all laughed and said, oh, that could be cool someday. But now that it's someday is now today, there's a lot of things to think about. And from a business perspective, this could be cool for Disney, because remember, Disney's coming out with their own streaming service soon. Shows like Jessica Jones and Daredevil and all that kind of thing will remain on Netflix. But I think the Marvel movies are going to be on the Disney streaming service, and then original content will be on the Disney streaming service, which could mean you could get an X-Men series, you could get something going on with the Fantastic Four as a TV series on the streaming service. These things are all possible. I just kind of worry about the individuality of it. Because the rat is not as all-consuming as everybody thinks, nor is it going to be Disney-fied in terms of it being very PG, even though, to be honest, no matter what violence and darkness goes on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it still is pretty PG compared to some of the stuff that Fox might do. So we'll see how that gels. From a nerd perspective, well, from a geek perspective, because there's that version, it could be cool, because I for one would love to go and see Black Panther and hear them talk about this girl called Ororo Monroe who he had a crush on, because anybody who knows Ororo Monroe and T'Challa knows why that's important. I would be glad to see the Marvel Illuminati come out, and the Marvel Illuminati, for those of you who don't know, is like Charles Xavier, Tony Stark, Doctor Strange, Reed Richards, Black Panther, T'Challa, and there's like 5 of them, and there's kind of brain trust, and they were dubbed the Illuminati, the Marvel Illuminati. So that could be cool. So there is a lot of pros for the random fan base. It could be good business-wise for Disney for future things. I just have a slight trepidation in terms of original Fox Marvel stuff, like I said, like Deadpool, and right now they're getting ready to write an X-23 storyline with Laura, which means that in that world they can afford to be a little bit more violent. What's going to happen when it comes over there? Is it going to be like Sony in terms of, okay, we will make this the show and you can distribute it, except of course naturally the difference being that Sony is still Sony. It's not being bought over by the rat right now. Disney has no intentions to take over Sony as far as we know. So that's it. There's pros for the nude side. There's possible cons for the nude side as well. What's your thoughts? How do you feel about this? Like legitimately, are you super excited to see that maybe everything might just flow right back into its pond, or do you just want them to be nah, just everybody keep separate?